I'm Whit Watson in our Sun Sports studios. Our guest on In My Own Words is a Hall of Fame high school football and wrestling coach in his home state of Michigan. Currently, he's employed as a motivational speaker and personal coach on Florida's Space Coast. In between, he enjoyed another professional career that some of you might be familiar with. His name is Jim Myers. You may know him as George the Animal Steele. This is In My Own Words. Welcome to In My Own Words, presented by AT&T here on Sun Sports. Whit Watson in the studio with Jim Myers, otherwise known as Professional Wrestling Hall of Famer George the Animal Steele. Jim, thanks a lot for coming in.
Who do you want to interview, George or Jim?
Jim, please.
George goes like this, hey, you. And we could do an hour like that if you want.
You still got it.
Oh, hey.
How often do people walk up to you and refer to you as George?
It's funny how they do that. They come up and say, are you who I think you are? Am I, what are you thinking? And they're afraid to say George because he's a little off the wall.
Right.
But finally they'll say that, then I'll go right into character, and some of them run.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, the word character. I saw an interview with you where someone referred to George the Animal Steele as a gimmick, and you actually corrected the interviewer and said it's a character. What's the difference?
Well, a gimmick is something that I carried in my pants that I hit people with. A character is what I'm portraying.
Right.
Totally different things. A gimmick's a tool.
Okay.
In all businesses.
The program here highlights sports figures that have a connection to Florida. You've been a resident of the Space Coast for almost 20 years now in Cocoa Beach. How did you come to Florida in the first place?
We had a show in Orlando, a wrestling show, and a friend of mine, Tony Gurria, had a condo over in Cocoa Beach. And he said, well, why don't we spend the night there? And as we traveled over those two bridges, we were looking for a place to move anyhow. Detroit was changing a little bit. And I said, I found it. And she came down and surveyed the area, and we moved in real quick. We sold everything we had in Detroit, everything, and because we wanted to look like beach people, and we became beach people.
I get the sense you love living in Florida.
Oh, we love it. You got it.
Back in Michigan, I already mentioned the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. You're also a Hall of Famer as a high school coach in Michigan, coached football and wrestling. How did you get your start in coaching?
Well, I went to Michigan State University, played football, blew a knee real quick and early on. They went my career in professional football. I had signed a contract with the AFL the first year with the Buffalo Bills for I had a huge contract, $8,500. In those days, that was huge. My knee is gone, so I started teaching for $4,300 for the whole year with two children, a third one on the way, and a family. So I started looking for another job. So what would you do if you were me looking for another job?
Well, I can think of a few options. And
I took a friend. This is a great way to do it. Went to bars looking for a job as a bouncer. I found out you don't drink beer and you don't have a friend if you're looking for a job as a bouncer.
Okay.
So I didn't get hired. I was not a wrestling fan. I never watched it. I saw it a few times and kind of blew it off as for what it was. And my friend was a tremendous pro wrestling fan. He talked me in at 2:30 in the morning to call Bert Ruby, who was then the local promoter in Detroit. Woke him up at 2:30. Hey, I want to be a wrestler, because I had a couple beers. And long story short, he invited me over the next day. When I went to his home, I knocked on the door. He opened the door, took one look at me. I looked closely, and he said, beautiful. Boy, did flags go up, because I know what I look like. And I went in and met his family. He took me into his office. I felt very comfortable at that point. Then he asked me to take my shirt and tie and jacket off. And, had no idea what that was all about. He was looking for the body type and so on. I had no inkling of wrestling. When he saw the body here, he started, oh, this is beautiful. Now I'm like, whoa, what's this all about? But that was my beginning in pro wrestling.
And I understand that you were actually juggling both careers. You were coaching and teaching, and you were wrestling at the same time. Did your students know what you were doing?
We come up with a great idea. I was learning the wrestling business, so we called me the student. I put a mask on, wore a cap and gown, and was learning the business of wrestling. What was neat about that is I could do anything I wanted to do. In wrestling, one of the things that you need to do is, as you're wrestling is that look and those faces that we make. When you have a mask, you have none of that. So everything I had to do with body, a lot of motion. So later on when I took the mask off, I had all the other tools put together because of that mask. It was the best thing that could happen to me. I wore the mask because we didn't want the students to know that I was wrestling. So, you know, it was just a way to hide it. And I didn't want the administration to know it either.
I can imagine. That's a pretty safe way to go about it. We're going to take a break real quick with Jim Myers, who wrestled as George the Animal Steele. When we come back on In My Own Words, his career as a pro wrestler and the one opponent it took him many years to defeat. This is In My Own Words, presented by AT&T on Sun Sports.
Get the speed you need for the price and $75 cash back from the most complete provider for the way you live. TV, broadband, home phone, and wireless. Bell South is now the new AT&T. Your world delivered.
This Memorial Day weekend, Everglades Boats offers you the opportunity to save on our full line of boats, including the incomparable new 350cc. Come to our open house sale and get your dream boat for less. For more details, visit us online or contact your participating Everglades dealer. Don't let this one pass you by.
We salute those in the arena whose faces are testimony to the pure joy of effort and who play with enthusiasm and abandon. Those competitors who go all out for the sweet taste of victory. There's no better place for good times, good sports, and great food than your neighborhood Beef O'Brady's.
See you at Beef's.
Sports fans are begging to be heard. While Coors Light and FSN are listening.
With a payroll as big as ours, our team should be better.
Now you can refresh your inner fan before the game and be on TV during the game. Look for our camera crews and don't be shy.
I'm Shauna Fleming and I started A Million Thanks. May is National Military Appreciation Month. To find out how you can say thanks to the troops, go to amillionthanks.org.
The FSN final score tonight.
The IFL brings you mixed martial arts, only team fighting competition. The International Fight League on FSN. This week, Renzo Gracie and his New York Pit Bulls look to stay undefeated as they battle the always dangerous Portland Wolfpack. Friday on FSN.
In My Own Words, presented by AT&T, is brought to you by AT&T. Bell South is getting together with the new AT&T to bring you fast access DSL starting at just $24.95 a month.
Welcome back to In My Own Words, presented by AT&T on Sun Sports. Whit Watson in studio with Jim Myers, who wrestled professionally as George the Animal Steele for many, many years, now living in Cocoa Beach, Florida. Our conversation from the previous segment, you mentioned the fact that you graduated from Michigan State University before getting into coaching. You also have a master's degree. You did all of this with, as you call it, the gift of dyslexia.
Absolutely.
Why did you call it the gift of dyslexia?
Well, I found it early on that what God takes away, he gives in another form, and I have a great memory. Going to school when you can't read or write is kind of tough. Getting out of high school when you can't read or write is kind of tough, unless you're a pretty good athlete. So I got into Michigan State, not because I was a great athlete, but I was a good athlete. I got there and I couldn't read or write. I mean, I was lost. And I had an enrollment officer, Roy Niemeyer, at the time, and he recognized that I had some basic intelligence. I just couldn't put it on paper. This was before they knew what dyslexic was.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just a lot. When you're dyslexic in high school, you're a big dummy that sits in the back of the room and they can't help you. So anyhow, he set it up for me to take a lot of my tests orally. Football office had nothing to do with that. And I got through school on an edge. It was a tough deal. I mean, I was a 2.111 when I graduated probably. But I did graduate and was able to get a master's later on. So it's a gift for me because when I say something, I remember it. When somebody else tells me something, I remember it. I don't put it in writing, and I still have a problem. When I was wrestling, I'd call my wife and tell her I'm in L.A., I'm at this hotel, give her the name of the hotel, give her the phone number, which was usually backwards.
Right.
So I had to give her the name of the hotel and the city I was in, and so if she needed to get a hold of me, she could trace me that way because the numbers probably weren't right. So it was a challenge.
You talked about how you got into wrestling in the last segment. Over the years, you met up with and worked with about every notable pro wrestler this country has seen in the last 25, 30 years.
Try 40.
Or 40 years. Who were your favorite guys to work with?
You know, people ask me that, and we've exposed the business a little bit. And my favorite guys to work with were guys that were good workers, good performers. When I got a guy that was new in the business, they were the hard guys to work with because a lot of guys I just threw out of the ring a lot of times because they didn't know what they were doing. But I loved working with Bruno Sammartino. He was an excellent champion way back when. Bobby Backlund later on. Hulk changed the business totally. And I always worked really firm, and as the business was coming around, they were working a little looser. So I wasn't real popular with some of the new guys because when I hit them, I hit them.
Right.
Not to hurt them.
This is the question that you get asked 1,000 times. How much is real and how much is staged? And how do you decide before you go into the ring if any of it is staged? And I'm not going to tell you that it is, but if it is, how do you work that out in advance?
Well, the way it was and the way it is totally different. It's two different businesses. Way back then, it was all about selling tickets, period. So if you were somebody, you know, I was a bad guy when I was really on top of my game. And I was always working with champions and the good guys that everybody loved. So I would go on TV shows and just beat the tar out of guys that were smaller than me. I mean, I was brutal. I never gave them anything. And the fans wanted to see the champion get a hold of me, so that was my gig. So and the other thing, I taught school. This is really important. So I went to New York in the Northeast 2.5 months. I only worked with champions. And I was back in school teaching. So they didn't see a whole lot of me. And what I did was wild and crazy, and they never could get enough of it. So that teaching and coaching kept me really good in wrestling.
Right.
If that makes any sense to you.
But a lot of it, some of the gimmicks, the tools that you did use in the ring were not necessarily staged. The turnbuckle, for example, was something that came kind of organically. It was an idea you got during a match.
I would like to say that it was a dream and it came to me. Here's what happened, really. I was wrestling in Pittsburgh, black and white TV, studio wrestling. We had maybe 250 people in the arena, or in the studio.
Right.
And they used to give gifts to come to the show. They weren't paying to get in. We'd give them gifts because we needed some action for the TV to sell our product. And this particular show, they gave away those, you probably don't remember them, you're too young, but satin stuffed pillows that used to sit on the couch.
Right.
They gave those away. And this lady they called Ringside Rosie, who was not part of the show but really put on a show, threw her pillow at me when she got angry at me. Now, you get a pillow in the ring. What are you going to do with it? If I sit on it, it's boring. They gave away pillows, so if I throw it back out there, I get 400 pillows thrown at me. I ate it. I tore it apart, threw it in the air, and that pillow was only, you know, so big, but it was packed with this stuffing, and it was coming down like snow and sticking in my hair, so I looked like the abominable snowman. Now what are you going to do with it? I took it. If I had one, I'd do it to you. Put it over the guy's head. Started choking with it over there. Great TV. Pulled it off, and he was blue because the stuffing in the pillow was lighter than air. So when he breathed, gasping for air because I got that over his head, all this filling was going down. I almost killed him. That's the bottom line. So I go in the dressing room, and wrestlers being like they are, they're all laughing. You almost killed him. That's the old days. And one of the guys said, well, if you get somebody to throw a pillow at you every night, boy, that'd be a great gimmick. And not Pedro Morales, it was Puglisi, Tony Puglisi, said, yeah, maybe you could go eat a turnbuckle every night, and everybody laughed. About 3 weeks later, I was wrestling Chief Jay Strongbow, and the match was just slow. The people were sitting on their hands. There was no reaction. And usually the character George Steele got a reaction. It was dead. So I looked at that turnbuckle, and I thought, I wonder. So I went over and bit it. It popped right open. I never thought that would happen. So I reached in, I grabbed that stuffing out, started running. This quiet match became almost a riot. Then after I took the stuffing out, the turnbuckle pad covers a steel ring that holds the ropes up. So then I take him by the head, boom, throw his head in there. Now they're coming to the ring. I mean, they're ready because they love the chief. They hated me anyhow. Now we almost got a riot. So I became very much in love with the turnbuckles because it's a lot easier than wrestling. Just going to turnbuckle and boom, we got business.
We'll take one more break here with Jim Myers, who wrestled as George the Animal Steele. This is In My Own Words, presented by AT&T. Coming up, we'll talk about his faith and his future in and out of the ring. This is In My Own Words, presented by AT&T.
Get the speed you need for the price and $75 cash back from the most complete provider for the way you live. TV, broadband, home phone, and wireless. Bell South is now the new AT&T. Your world delivered.
Full Throttle Fury Slush. It's got that energy drink and a slush thing.
I'm feeling its full power right now. Senses are heightened to an extreme acuity right now.
Okay.
Give me a second. I want to listen to the grass grow.
Oh, I will let you do that all day long. What, did the grass tell a joke?
No, a ladybug told another ladybug a joke.
Full Throttle Fury Slush. New at Sonic. It's a high-octane experience of a citrus energy rush in your slush. And stop in for dessert tonight because Sonic's even sweeter after dark.
I'm an independent marathon dealer, and I'm committed to taking care of my customers. That's why I feel so good about our improved gasolines. Now, all marathon gasolines are fortified with STP additives that provide extra cleaning power and help maintain fuel economy. Marathon gasolines with STP additives, it's something I'm proud to offer my customers. Marathon, fueling the American spirit.
On your wedding day, when everyone is looking at her, she'll be looking at you. So rent your tuxedo at Men's Warehouse and you'll look almost as good as she does. You're gonna like the way you look. I guarantee it.
Diamonds. Half-carat fancies are $3.99. 1-carat solitaires are $5.99, $9.90, and $15.90. 2-carat solitaires are $19.90. Plus thousands of GIA diamonds guaranteed the lowest price. Buy direct and save. The Jewelry Exchange in Tampa.
Welcome back to In My Own Words, presented by AT&T on Sun Sports. Whit Watson with Jim Myers, who wrestled as George the Animal Steele. Quickly, before we get to our next topic, the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. I want to give you a chance to explain it and tell people where they can find it.
Well, the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame is in Amsterdam, New York. It happened by accident. I was at one of the independent shows talking to a fella who was the state commissioner. He was also a head of the Boxing Hall of Fame. And he asked me about the WWE Hall of Fame, and I was a member of that. I went in that in 1995, and I told him, I said, well, that doesn't really exist. It's more of a promotional thing for the WWE. He said, really, where's it located? I said, it's not. So this guy is a ball of fire, Tony Villano. He's the president of the Hall of Fame. We went to work. We are a museum. We were granted by the state of New York as a museum and get some funds from the state for that, by the way. We're a two-story true Hall of Fame. We're going on to our 5th induction. I was inducted last year. I'm proud of that.
I see that.
And we're putting some people in this year, but we're a lot more than just the Hall of Fame. I wrestled a lot of guys that were not superstars. One I think of all the time is Frank Hickey. He got beat by everybody. He was an old man when I started in the business. I think he had everybody's first match, and they just beat him up. Those guys are the foundation to our business. Without me having somebody to beat up before I go to Madison Square Gardens or here, back when I was wrestling in Orlando, and wrestling for the championship, I had to beat somebody up. And so we have over 1,000 pictures, and we have all kinds of paraphernalia from people that wrestled in the past. We go all the way back before the 19. I think our oldest guy in there is 1894.
Wow.
We were in Schenectady, New York. We moved out of there, but why we were in and we didn't know this going in. Our address in Schenectady was 123 Broadway. In wrestling, a 123 is meaning you're going to pin somebody.
Right.
And Broadway means you're going to go the distance.
Right.
So when it was 123 Broadway, it was like, oh, this is given by God. And then we found out that the first wrestling show that was ever televised was in Schenectady, New York.
No kidding.
Think about it. Who's in Schenectady, New York? General Electric.
Oh, okay.
So they had a studio there, and that's how it all started.
Got it.
I like to say that wrestling, when I'm talking about the Hall of Fame, is the two oldest things in TV now is the news and wrestling. And they've both gone showbiz.
Yeah,
so what can
true.
I say?
Your career was interrupted in 1988. You were diagnosed with Crohn's disease.
Oh boy, yes.
You adopted some unique methods of tackling that disease, and you still continue that to this day. How did you face this diagnosis?
Well, I was told by the doctor that they didn't know the cause of Crohn's. There was no cure for it. And we're going to give you these meds and just hope that it works. Well, I had never been sick in my life. I did everything that I was told to do by the doctors. I got sicker and sicker and sicker. Anyone that knows what prednisone is, I was on 120 milligrams of prednisone. My face was this big. I was uglier than I am now. I mean, it was a tough deal. And I was dying. I come to Cocoa Beach to die. I mean, I'd been given 6 months to live probably, or possibly. And I come there and I sit a lot in the sun. I picked up why would you put a protection on if you're there to die? So I sat out there and I meditated a lot. And I finally had a friend call me up, Bill Watts, a wrestler, and started telling me about some products. And he said it was network marketing, and I cussed him out. I said, you know, I've got my money here for my wife after I'm gone. He didn't know how sick I was. I was really sick. And I started doing some things, and I started getting my health back. I started telling people about this product because it had saved my life. And I had 17 people that were terminally ill that were stretching their life pretty good. I was fortunate. I could stay on there. It was too expensive. So these people eventually had to get off, and they died, and it was like, whoa. So that kind of backed me off of the marketing part of it. But it made me understand that God has given us everything on earth that we need to survive. Yeah, so my philosophy is if man made it, read it. If God made it, eat it. It's just the way I am. I take I don't take any pharmaceutical drugs unless I'm fighting kidney stones, which is a part of Crohn's. I am not diagnosed with Crohn's. I have no markers for Crohn's. I'm completely cured. There's no cure for it. Everybody says, well, that's impossible, but it happens. I think it's with nutrition, proper things. And when people tell me natural, I laugh at them because arsenic's natural.
Right.
So you better know what you're taking when it's natural even. You better be careful. But I think with God and the proper nutrition that you can really extend your life even when you're pretty sick. And I was very sick for 10 years.
That's an amazing story. We're going to take one final break here on In My Own Words, presented by AT&T. We'll come back with Jim Myers, known as George the Animal Steele during his wrestling career, what he's doing now, and some more memories of his days in the ring. This is In My Own Words, presented by AT&T.
Get the speed you need for the price and $75 cash back from the most complete provider for the way you live. TV, broadband, home phone, and wireless. Bell South is now the new AT&T. Your world delivered.
Do the rod, shrimp, rod. The Dixie Crossroads rod. Shrimp with the lobster taste that never stops.
Now is the time to come try that shrimp with a lobster taste at the one and only Dixie Crossroads in Titusville. We invite you to bring the whole family and walk on over to enjoy our delicious rock shrimp and other savory seafood at affordable prices.
Dixie Crossroads is the only place to do the rod, shrimp, rod.
Sun Sports, the home of Lightning hockey. Join us for all the highlights as we recap the entire 2007 season. The Lightning postseason special. Tonight at 9, only on Sun Sports.
Since I've been young, I've always practiced free kicks. What's important is getting into the zone. I don't change my mind. If I take a good enough free kick, the goalkeeper won't stop it.
Tonight on the FSN, final score presented by DirecTV. King James leads the Cavs into Motown to battle the Pistons in the opener of the Eastern Conference Finals. While on the diamond, the Yankees look to make up some ground as they host the Red Hot Sox in the Bronx. And it's a battle of NL Division leaders. The Brewers travel to the City of Angels to take on the Dodgers. All that, plus our top moments from the weekend, coming up tonight right here on the FSN Final Score.
The FSN Final Score tonight.
In My Own Words, presented by AT&T, has been brought to you by AT&T. Bell South is getting together with the new AT&T to bring you fast access DSL starting at just $24.95 a month.
Welcome back. We're with Jim Myers, who wrestled as George the Animal Steele for many, many years in professional wrestling, a Hall of Famer in the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame as well as the WWE Hall of Fame. You talked about your faith in your last segment, in our last segment, and with just a couple of minutes left here. That must have a very unique meaning to you, the word faith, because of what you've been through in terms of your health, etc. How important is your faith to you on a daily basis?
Well, it all started after I was very, very sick, as I was telling you before,
Right.
and I actually shut down on the table, not from the disease, but from the drugs, prednisone. It gave me sugar diabetes, which I did not know that I had. I shut down, did a 911 at the hospital, and after that, I started getting my health back, and I told my wife we need to go church shopping. I had been a Baptist as a youngster, and I said, we're going to the Baptist church to eliminate it. So we go to our first church, and there was we're both teachers, so there was a lot of kids there, a lot of youth, and we thought, well, we'll go back to this Baptist church, it's First Baptist Church of Merritt Island. So what we didn't know was there was a gospel singer from Australia. That's why the kids were there. The next Tuesday was 9/11. So like the rest of the world, the country, we were on our knees crying and praying, and we hadn't found the Lord yet. So we went back to the same church, and now all the military from the Space Coast is there in uniform, and it was like it just knocked us out. We went I was ready to sign up. I'm a reactor. My wife said, let's wait back. We'll wait and see a little bit more about this church. We joined the church about a year later, June 16th. We were baptized and became Christians for the first time in my life. And it's changed my life totally, how I look at things, how I do things. I go to a lot of high school football games here in Florida. When I first come here, I thought, Michigan football, you guys don't know, because we hit. But John Moran was the coach at Mainland High School. We coached against each other in Michigan. I saw them play Lakeland. I watched Lakeland football. The first game that I went to with my wife was a state championship game. It was in Daytona Beach. And these two schools were supposed to be great defenses. I think it ended up 64 to... In Michigan, if you have a great halfback, you're a state champion. In Florida, everybody has one.
Right.
So I love the football here. And my faith ties in with the kids. It just all fits together. I wish I'd have known the Lord when I was coaching and teaching. It would have been a plus for me and the people that I worked with. Although a lot of our kids have turned out to be fantastic human beings that we coach. So it's been a great run doing both. I mean, I love the wrestling. I was a part-time wrestler most of my career. Most people kind of laugh at that because they say, well, how can you act like George? And I said, well, the kids drove me crazy, which is kind of how it was, I guess.
With about 45 seconds left, I asked this question to everybody. Somebody met you on the street, didn't know who you were, had no idea who George the Animal Steele was. What's the one thing that you would like that person to know about Jim Myers?
That's a great question. Wow. I would like them to know that I am 100% with my integrity. That if I tell them something, take it to the bank. Now, I tease a lot, and don't get that mixed up with my integrity. I mean, I might tell you a wild story, and it's a story, but when I tell you something that's straight up, I want to know that, hey, that's the way it is. And I look people right in the eye when I tell them the real deal.
Jim, this has been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in. And thank you for joining us on In My Own Words, presented by AT&T here on Sun Sports.
The ACC baseball tournament is right here on Sun Sports. Catch the best teams the Atlantic Coast Conference has to offer as they battle for the championship. Coverage begins Wednesday morning at 10 and continues all day long, only on Sun Sports.